Circle of hands, cold spirits plan, searching my land for an enemy. Came across love's sweet cost, and in the face of beauty, evil was lost. Sky full of eyes, minds full of lies, black from their cold hearts down to their graves. Murder the dawn, spreading their scorn, cursing the sun of which love was born. We must keep them away. Pretty soon we'll pay, count the cost in sorrow. Sacrifice, future has its price, and today's only yesterday's tomorrow.
This you should feel the power and drawing morphogenetic fields of the red dawn of Zarathustra, as I have called it now, a kind of a cycle and a kind of multi-volume work of music, motion, imagery, and word, so a kind of total Kunstwerk, das totale Kunstwerk, which is now brought to fruition after I have been living it for myself like a madman for some 40 years now. So now I feel qualified to pass it on the public, which naturally is a very special public, yeah? As in Zarathustra opening page has the motto, ein Buch für jeden, keinen, a book for all and for no one. But it is 120 years or something. Now it's 80s now, 1880s, 1980s. So we have 140 years roughly from the publication of Zarathustra. And in his time, it was correct when Nietzsche wrote a book for everybody and no one. For everybody to read. If you are a modern European of the 19th century, you certainly can read this book. Ne? But it is for no one in the sense that you cannot understand it at that time, because Nietzsche was well aware of the fact that he was writing for the distant future, and this is our present. This distant future is our present. According to my phenomenal theory of phenomenal time, or the theory of the experienced time, there is no past ontologically, and there is no future ontologically. Okay, I have combined this from some modern theories about time and space, and from Ludwig Klages' theory of cosmogonic Eros, and some old intuitions that, phenomenally we experience a present moment continuously without disruption if we do not jump into a kind of beyond time and space speculation in concepts and abstract ideas. The great and grave danger for all young and healthy and powerful human beings, human animals, as John Lamblage would say, is that they are too early drawn to some gnostic, to some darkish, mysterious, beyond this world, kind of otherworldly realm of conceptual thinking or of religious devotion, okay, or a kind of projected dreaming, yes? Okay, so, and now to round it up with my theory of phenomenal experience time, Nietzsche, as he was walking around the lake Silvaplana, where I was also running like hell all around in Switzerland near the village Surlay, where he spent his summers. Okay, and I was there also very many times, and I spent even winters there, which he did not. I spent the winters as a skiing instructor on the great glacier Korvach above the lake, my ladies and gentlemen. Okay, tremendous fate, and all this is brings ripe fruits now. Like in Zarathustra, he has to go 3 times. He has to leave the mountain and leave his wisdom, and then even leave his disciples, because it's not the right thing. The time is accumulating, the phenomena are accumulating, his experiences are accumulating, his even body perceptions are accumulating, and there we have this idea of the accumulation of time, that is, say, of phenomena, experiences of time, and this is always actually an experience of space, because time as such does not have any volume, color, space, taste, shape. It does not, cannot be perceived, cannot be experienced. So it's even in classical physics you have this rule that you measure the time by a distance in space from A to B. Okay, an object is moving from A to B, and you measure the distance, and then you somehow have a relationship between the spatial distance and the artificial measuring of the so-called time. I mean, the clocks and this running clocks are pure abstraction. They don't have any equivalent in the real. Ontologically speaking, in the real space of this planet. Planet Mother Gaia Sophia, she is turning like a blue drop of fantastic shapes and living organisms of all kinds, of winds and seas and mountains, and this blue, white, greenish, brownish ball is suspended in the space due to the power of the radiation field. We are throwing here ideas for Nobel Prizes one after the another, because there is no there is not only gravitation, there is also levitation, and levitation is the upholding, the lifting force, and from the center of the body of Mother Gaia's fire, where the enormous pressure of the material body condenses in the center, there comes a transformation, and out of this enormous pressure starts to radiate to the surface of the ball, of the earth ball, and beyond that, and far away beyond that, radiates the levitation field, or the radial field, okay, ladies and gentlemen. And this is what is upholding all planets and suns and moons, okay, in the cosmic space, né? And then they influence each other by intersecting and merging these radiation fields. And there is a speculation that even light, as we perceive it on the planet Earth, is an outcome of the intersection, merging of the Earth radiation field and the huge, monstrous solar radiation field. And to conclude this Nobel Prize kind of throwing from the balcony for the researchers who are, feeling that there could be an element of truth in it, like in the Perimeter, I say, the Perimeter Institute. I was listening to this guy who was, what his name, difficult listening, but some ideas are igniting sympathy, like his conception of the locality of time. Locality of time. Time is not the same everywhere. Okay, that is already Einstein. Okay, the relativity of time, but we would change it into the locality of space. Space-time. Look, it's actually the same. For us, simply to conclude this, not to conclude, but to turn back to some of the images that were ignited by this wonderful experience of a healthy, strong, beautiful morning on Atlantis on the balcony, remembering as I look at my tennis shoes and my tennis rackets here, because there are 2 tennis courts here nearby. I remember the first impulses I have had to live like that. It was while reading Ray Bradbury's short stories, where they're sitting on the porch of a nice family house somewhere in the south, in those peaceful times, and looking at your white tennis shoes and drinking the red lemonade, like whatever it would be, strawberry or blueberry or whatever lemonade your mother has made, and this endless space of childhood and young boyhood now, and then this duration of time. If you have had the chance to live like that, like I have had, to live the 6 years of my first appearance on this planet in a beautiful garden of my mother, who was also very kind of sophisticated in the sense of reading poetry and sitting on a porch and in the garden altan, and there was a kind of this huge, what do you call it, a swinging entity where you can sit inside, and even 4 people could swing inside and sit and talk. And she was sitting there, and you could hear the screeching of the old rusty screws, and you smelled the smell of old wood as the sun is pouring on it, and you were crawling around it on a fresh green grass within the flowers. And it was for 6 years, and she didn't have this crazy idea that she has to raise me to some, educate me and made me to something, because she was immersed in her own desire and passion and admiration for nature, for poetry, and she was still young, and so she was dreaming. So I could have had this, and then later naturally this enormous expanses of time between like 8, 9, and 12, where a summer can last 15 years, one afternoon can last a full week or 2, and you are lying down somewhere on a green grass or on the soft moss in the woods and along on the warm sand of a lake or a sea, and you're reading your favorite adventures books like The Count of Monte Cristo by Alexander Dumas, or you see Karl May, Winnetou, Old Shatterhand, or then Ray Bradbury, water and fire, or ice and fire, or all this. I got these paperbacks. Now I got these paperbacks somehow from the United States, and this was a time that you would have one book like that for half a year. There would be no other book like that. So you would, you cherish it like a holy Bible. And now today you come to a science fiction department of a big bookstore and you are simply killed and overrun by thousands of volumes. And I doubt they have the quality of Ray Bradbury. Definitely they don't have it, because Ray Bradbury is really truly the follower, the heir of Edgar Allan Poe. We finished this image of Edgar Allan Poe and Ray Bradbury in my young days in the high school, and then we returned to the theory of time, of perceived time and fundamental time, and how it relates to Nietzsche, this idea of eternal return. And because the formative years are very important. If we keep those sources alive that are music, motion, landscape, and literature, and food, and even dreams, if you still are open to those realms of your morphogenetic field of the present moment. Now we are already there almost in the theory of time. Okay, so you see, I when I go on a bicycle here from here my place near Chrysostomos Beach, if I go to the west to see the sunset and rise on my bicycle to the chapel of St. Paul, this is looking down to the right, to the west, above Carl Limenes, and the huge ball of red sun is setting into the seas or behind the mountains according to the time of the year. I have this Edgar Allan Poe space, a morphogenetic field of my soul fully open, and it has been there ever since I experienced it for the first time in Prague in the 60s when I was reading those stories of Poe, okay, and Fall of the House of Usher, and the poems Ligeia, Annabel Lee, and so on. Because it is there. Where this is what we have found out through introspection, because we are phenomenologists, and the only reliable source of research is our own soul field. So no objection can be made against this method that empiricists and mathematicians and other exact scientists can catch upon these ideas and work on them and prove them in their mathematics, or maybe through measurements or whatever kind of in some distant future, is very much possible. And then they can collect their Nobel Prizes for physics. And if they are honest, they will then support the source of this idea. They will be grateful to the source of the idea, and they will support the Red Dawn of Zarathustra project, which I hope shall spread along this coast of Atlantis, which is South Crete, from Carl Limenes to the east, an area which I know intimately, and then from Matala to the west, to Triopetra, and so on to Pavel, an area, and the Samaria Gorge that I also know, and they are some very powerful places. And this is what is actually drawing me to expose it, to open it. And now it has become a kind of culmination with the Red Dawn of Zarathustra. I'm grateful to all those who have clicked on my Red Dawn of Zarathustra You Are a Heap video. Okay, I have been away too long. The song from You Are a Heap. I have beautified, or so to say, with the photos of sunrise here in this area and of my vision of Zarathustra as he rises up at the end of the book. Also sprach Zarathustra, thus spake Zarathustra. We see Zarathustra rising and talking to the sun, and there it is written in German, gürtete sich mit der Sonne. He, so to say, put a belt, he belted, I don't know if the verb is in English correct, he belted himself with the sun, or he put a belt, the sunny belt, the sun belt around his waist, and then he caressed the lion, and he played with the doves that came, and then he walked away, and he was some 80 years old, and his step was very youthful, elastic, full of power, and this is because Zarathustra has discovered the secret, or what we could call it, he has heard the calling of his soul, and of the soul of the sun, and of the soul of the earth and animals and plants, all the biosphere around him was merging. And what does it mean? That they all have a soul. These all entities, animals, plants, seas, rivers, clouds, lakes, mountains, and animals, and birds, and lions, and doves, and eagles, and snakes, and lambs, and all human beings, naturally, human animals, have a soul field, okay, that is spreading far beyond the body, okay, of that individual organism. And with Albert Note Whitehead, we give this ability and this quality also to those so-called conglomerates, that is, to the winds, to the clouds, to the lakes, to the mountains, to the landscape generally, and then even to the whole planet. It has a soul, it is a Gaia, it is Sophia, according to which narrative you relate to Lovelock or Lamblèche, no? Okay? So Zarathustra was young with his 80 years exactly because he lived continuously in that kind of merging of soul fields, okay, and the soul fields of nature, of the sea, of the lake, of the sun, of the wind, of the animals, of the lions, and so on, are, in modern language, software fields. They are the software of the living body, because the living body is the expression of the soul in biocentric phenomenology, definitely. And I think nobody could object to that. So, and what is the soul? We say it's a morphogenetic field. And in modern terms, it's a software. So if you merge with the software of the sea and the lake and the sun and the lion, what will happen? What if you merge? What does it mean? I mean, if your soul merges in a passive, ecstatic way, so then you merge, and I mean, the language has completely to be worked out. There's this kind of obsession of Indo-Germanic languages, Indo-European languages, to use the active form, to use the active verbal form to describe and name passively happening processes of nature is a great obstacle if you want to defend our ecstatic, poetic way of life. Because where does it come from? It comes definitely from the Indo-European tribes that definitely had a language, and the language is a trace of the way they were perceiving and they were thinking. That's why it is important to study linguistics and historical linguistics also, and that's why Nietzsche is so exceptionally good in his analysis of the values that various cultures have had, because he was reading closely, and he was very gifted for that, the original texts of Greek, Latin, whatever, and French and German old literatures. No? So, and when we look for one book that could open to us the way to imagine and feel even the way of thinking and feeling of the Indo-European tribes in their old motherland, then there is the book of a great Czech philosopher and a linguist, Professor Milan Machovec, under whom I was studying in the university, in Charles University Philosophical Faculty in Prague in the 1970s, and later he became a friendly advisor and glad to say spiritual sponsor of my expeditions to Crete around the year 2000, that then fascinated me so much that I have stayed very many winters here and have developed this project that now culminates in the Red Dawn of Zarathustra, which should be chapter or the book 5 from Also sprach Zarathustra, okay, if all goes well, and if it is sufficiently supported both by the soul of the mother planet, both and by the support of human sympathizers. No? Okay, well then, what does this book of Milan Machovec tells us? The name of the book is Indo-Europeans in their Motherland, or in German, Indo-European in ihrer Urheimat. Okay, in old motherland. Okay, so what did he do? Certainly he knew the history. The classical university history of Indo-European tribes is that they roamed the steppes and the wide regions of Asia between the Ural Mountains and the Baikal Sea for millennia before they started to migrate south from there and west from there, like 4000 BC. Okay, why did they start to wander? Why didn't they stay at home in their motherland? Simply because they used a language that predominantly used the active form. Now, I am hunting, I am killing, I am the victor, and the gods are helping me, and the light god is supporting me, and so on. They were a total agency obsessed, active forces, will to power. They were sometimes parallel. They lived parallel to the old Asian Chinese Taoists that were completely on the other pole of this human soul kind of ability, how to approach to the biosphere of the planet Earth. The Taoist monks, they sit under the waterfall and they are passively admiring the rushing winds and the falling water and the running waves, and they try to dissolve, by the devotion to the elementary images of falling waterfall and branches of trees moving in the soft wind, the smells, and so it so happens, it cannot be done by willpower, it so happens that this perception flooding of the soul field of beautiful forms, of continuous and smooth forms of water, wind, and so on, that it simply overpowers the ego and it dissolves the ego by, is it possible? Well, because according to the biocentric phenomenology theory of the soul, the ego functions are nothing but a functional change of the soul field. So if there is a dirt and some arabesque of dirt or some shooting kind of excitation of the acts of willpower, of the acts of consciousness, like running thrust of energy penetrating the soul field from the ego point now, then it can be dissolved because it is of the same essence. The ego point definitely is not of the same essence as the soul field, but the functional change of the soul field is nevertheless the soul field. So it can be overpowered and dissolved, but passively, only passively in an ecstasy, by the influx of the soul fields of the elements, elementary forces, like the soul of the water and the waterfall and the wind in the leaves and the motion of the clouds and so on. So, and it happened passively, and they liked that very much because they felt, like that what thousands and thousands of years later Schopenhauer would describe as the stopping of the wheels of action, of this release from the pressure of the will now. And he attributed quite rightly this function to the works of art. If you're perceiving works of art, we are elevated and taken out from the pragmatic, running around and commanding ourselves and the others and the nature what is to be done, what must be done. Okay, so the Taoists were parallel, and like a few thousand kilometers from that to the north and to the west, there were those Indo-European horsemen riding like hell and on men packed on horses, full power, full armor, swords and arrows, and they were killing all what they found, and they were sometimes fighting each other also and killing each other and raping the women they have found in those villages. They have what is it called? They have, raised to the ground and burned, sacked, and their own women, still they were also sons of mothers now, and they had grandmothers, and they had wives, and they had children, but these women were kept in somewhere behind the men on horses, in those nomadic tents or yurtas, and they were simply taking care of the households. So, and they migrated slowly to the west and to the south because they have simply destroyed everything. There was nothing left, no animals left, no, they were not growing, they were not agricultural civilizations, so they could not recover by staying in one place and grow plants. So they went on and on and on and until they reached Europe, and so on the successive waves of expansion they have created those great empires of Persia and Hittites or whatever you want to, and then they slipped to the Mediterranean, and they were the first Achaeans, the Proto-Hellenic tribes, and then later became Greek, and then they became Romans, and then they, coming from the north, there were the Germanic and Saxon tribes and Slavic tribes, and maybe the Slavs are a slight exception. We know from the newest archaeology that there has been an original Slavic culture embrace by the mountains of Carpathia down to the delta and the flow of the Danube River, that they may have been original themselves there, because Slavs, I'm also a Slav, I'm coming from the great Czechoslovak Republic, which I always cherish, because before the Czechoslovak Republic became something monstrous, a capitalist monster of perversion of today, I ran away to the lake of Constance and to the Libyan Sea of Crete. Okay, so what do we have? We have this nomadic tribes, warrior tribes, obsessed men that regard their women as something, which should, just do the washing and kitchen and children take care and don't talk too much, no? If even though today, if sometimes you would like to buy a horse in those nomadic cultures that have settled down, today the men would, look at their wives with suspicion if they would decide to tell them what horse is better now. Okay, so now Professor Machovec has made an extensive analysis of all Indo-European languages, okay, that are now used. That is Russian, Czech, Old Czech, German, Old Bohemian, Old German, Anglo-Saxon, and Proto-Anglo-Saxon, French, and so Italy, Greece, and so. And he has found the roots, the morphemes that were common to all those modern languages. And he has supposed then if these morphemes are the same or similar, if we accommodate the shift of vowels, laws, and regularities in languages, so then we come to a series of nouns or verbs that were most probably the mostly used in the motherland by the Proto-Europeans of today, and so they reflect the thoughts they have, the sentences they have thought, and then actually the thoughts, and then even phenomenal experiences. You can read it. It is hard linguistic work for parts, but not so much as German books are, because he is well aware of that if you want to achieve something, you have to be readable. So this linguistic part is like 10 pages, and the rest of the 90 pages of the books are really readable philosophical stuff now, and historical stuff. So the conclusion is that the predomination of active verbs is the heritage of Indo-European languages, and then a kind of vertical structure of metaphysics with the highest power somewhere on the top, and with the quality of light, which then later becomes Zeus and Thor, and it is a kind of commanding power that in the nomadic tribe is the mightiest chief, and so. So, if we then return back to our project of the Red Dawn of Zarathustra, we have said we have to be careful when using the language if we want to describe, and we have said we are naming our phenomenal experiences. The phenomenal experiences are Taoistic, more than Indo-European. They are passive. All perception is passive. All phenomena flow one into the other without a break, whereas acts of consciousness, as Husserl has rightly said, are directed, they are intentional, and they are, according to Klages, the biocentric phenomenology, chief, they are outside of time and outside of space, because only then they can be really abstract. Only if they are not dependent on your position when you talk, like mathematics or abstract terminology, whatever science using, measurement of time, space, velocity, and then naturally discussing moral values like a dogmatic. You want them to be valid anywhere. Here on the shores of Crete, which we literally have to compare with the Taoistic and with the Indo-European cultures of like 4000 BC, because Crete is the old Atlantis, and it is as well maybe older than these, but definitely like 4,000 years old now. Well then, so when we talk in the careful way, we name our phenomenal experiences that are flowing and continuous, and that are essentially different from the directed, singular, Cartesian, so to say, beams and shots of intentional consciousness. The Cartesian element comes when this Husserlian beam of consciousness, which is outside time and space, when it hits a phenomena, it freezes it into an Cartesian object. Its effect is that it gets sharp edges and it stands out from the background and from its surroundings. It becomes this house, this horse, this sword, this ship, this idea, or this concept. Measurement of speed requires the scientist to sharply concentrate on distances, on objects that traverse distances, on localities where it starts and localities where it finishes, and then he can measure speed. The conceptual thinker who is discussing moral dogmas has to have a sharp concentration on what is the source, what is the dogmatic source, the book, what it says, on what page, and even what verse. He has to name it from his memory, and then he has to sharply distinguish it against that which he is criticizing. What is true and what is false, what is holy, what is unholy, what is life supporting, let us say, and what is life destroying, and so, so you have it. So when we name phenomena, we have to slow down and let the phenomena flow, and then try to name them as much as flowingly as it is possible. And this is a great future. This has happened only few times in human history, that individuals, poets, more rarely philosophers, more probably lovers that were trying to express the emotion to the beloved partner, that this was, I cannot say successfully achieved, because immediately this word success and achieving would bring in the agency style, the acts of consciousness style, as if something like that could be achieved. This is a great mistake, and that's why so many men and women today, and especially young ones, suffer disillusionment and become nihilistic and cynical and skeptical, because they have from their birth this innate ability to merge with the soul field of nature, of definitely the child, merges with the soul field. The soul of the child merges with the soul field of the mother during the pregnancy, and then during the first years of after its birth. Nah? So this is there, and this is the paradise. This is the kind of phenomenal, original paradise experience. Nah? And this what we are, deep in our inside. We are looking. We are searching. We are opening our soul and say, where do I get this? Nah? Where is the realm which will suck me in so that I can dissolve my grown-up ego and be renewed? Because it is true. The child is completely receiving all energy, power, life power from the limbical cord when it is inside the mother. Okay? And it is receiving the software of the mother soul completely. And then when it is separated from the mother, it still is close to the mother, or should be in ideal case, and is absorbing all the time passively. It does not demand, it does not command, it only shouts if or cries if there is a shortage of this energy. Okay, we are grown up, we also cry when there is a shortage of life energy, but this cry is a grown-up cry, and it takes on a shape of commands, and on a social level it becomes distorted to a war cry, war shout, because all those acts of violence are misunderstood desires for a mother, for a home, for merging, for passively being sucked into the huge energy ball of Mother Earth, okay, of their living soul. Yes, naturally, it needs several stages of re-education and terror and restriction and deprivation, so that through millennia this war shouts and madness shouts and great projects of wealth commanding and dominance and superpower dominance, when they so to say mutate, when the childish cry for embracement by the mother, when it mutates to this social and political projects, it takes several thousand years, and so it has been done. No? So it happened with the help of old, bony, jealous, envious men that sometimes were called philosophers, or sometimes were called religious leaders, or sometimes were called psychologists and scientists, that they have desecrated the body and the soul of the planet, of the mother, so that those devotees, or the students, or slaves, or congregations, or political parties, or armies, they have commanded, thought otherwise, that this innerly fed desire for home is to be achieved by willpower, by possessing lands that, unfortunately there are some local populations, we have to erase them and burn all what is there, because we want to go home, and we are actually, there is our home. They don't know what, they are barbarians, they are heretics, they are sinful. It's better to kill them now before they sin even more, and so and so. Okay. Also in the sciences, this diligently learning and sitting and memorizing algebra and geometry and chemistry tables and physical equations and so on. And then when we have this power of knowledge, then what? Then we shall build machines that will take care of us. Okay, that's crazy, no? And this does not work. And so these men get, exhausted, because where does this power come? This cognitive power for the directed acts of consciousness, of conceptual Cartesian thinking and Cartesian perception that makes out of phenomena discrete objects with sharp edges that stand out from the background, and it makes from the flux of feeling and emotion and desire and sympathy and antipathy and shapes and smells, which makes kind of conceptual entities like truth, democracy, lie, love, and so righteousness and freedom and spirit and soul and consciousness, even this self-reflexive concepts are made by the power of the directed beam of consciousness. No? And where does the energy come from that? For that? No, definitely not from the ego itself, because the ego is just a mathematical point, a software intruder in the soul field. Okay, so the energy comes from the soul field of that individual human organism, which is thinking cognitively. Okay, which is perceiving sharply, which is kind of exerting will pressure directed on some object. And definitely, when it comes from the soul, then where is the power for the soul, for the individual soul? No, that's the individual body. That is the breathing, that is the blood circulation, that is the metabolism, that is the nourishment, and so on. That's why Nietzsche is very, very well on the right track when he says, behind your small spirit there stands the huge spirit, but this huge spirit does not think, it is acting. And this huge spirit is called the body. Okay, Nietzsche, as a sharp thinker who happened to be ill quite frequently, and for extensive periods of time, was well aware of this beautiful feeling of returning power. Body power. He has devoted parts of his text in Zarathustra, the recovering ones, or the recovery, how it's of everything tastes so sweet and mild and lovely to those who recover from a long disease, naturally, because the soul field can again stretch, can again merge passively with the wind, with the taste of chocolate and oranges, and it can merge with the warm southern air, and the sea and the eyes can really glide on the waves with the passion of devotion, because the soul field during a disease is pulled in, and Nietzsche describes this very well also, as lying and suffering. Lying and suffering. That's why he is a friend of suffering, because not for suffering for its own sake, but suffering for a certain time and then recovering. And this difference, this transition, makes you aware of the sweetness of life. Okay, so during the disease, the soul field of a human animal is withdrawn into the bones, into the organs, into the lungs, and especially those parts of the body that are suffering either an injury or a metabolic problem. You know it all. If I hit you sharply with the tennis ball on your face. You are completely present in your face. There's nothing else. You, with the pain, draws everything into that locality. So we have it. So what is the main idea? We have mentioned also the Minoan times. The Minoan times as, yes, we have to finish this great discovery. I don't know if it is a discovery of mine. I don't care, because since about few years that I have been invited into the whole of the Akashic records, that have started not to write but to lecture, because the linear form of writing is somehow not nourishment enough for me. I feel that I'm losing the embracement of the Akashic records. Akashic records are the memory field of the planet Gaia, okay, or to be on a smaller scale, to speak on a smaller scale, is the local field, the Genius Lotse, the soul field of the locality. And it has been pointed out by deep thinkers like Heidegger and maybe definitely Klages also on some parts. Rudolf Steiner maybe also. So those deep thinkers and poets, many poets, those deep thinkers who have the passive impression that when they start to speak in this ecstatic form, which incidentally Nietzsche would probably label orgiastic philosopher. He said he wishes that there could come one day something like orgiastic philosophy, that has been orgiastic love, orgiastic war, or fight, or sport, or orgiastic music performance, dance performance, and so, but has not yet been orgiastic thinking or philosophizing. And he meant this great barrier was there, he felt, which then later originates already from Kant, and then was worked upon really much by the postmodern philosophers like Foucault and Derrida, when they were trying to play with the concept of madness. Because madness, for them, is a label for a state of the soul which is not analytical, which is not rational, which is not linear, and which is not linguistically dominated by the linear syntax of the mother tongue. Definitely, I have the privilege to have written a master thesis on linguistics on the University of Constance, 1980s it was. The subject was Benjamin Lee Whorf and Sapir hard determination thesis, and I was fascinated by that, because I have done translations between German and English. One of the other subjects I studied was the translation of poetic literature, and it was Joseph Conrad, Heart of Darkness, because Joseph Conrad fascinated me by his origin. He was not American, and he was Polish, and he learned American language, variation of English, so well that he became a classic. So Heart of Darkness, and I was translating this from English to German and vice versa, and I was not so bad in it. And my mother tongue is Czech, Bohemia, I prefer to say. It sounds better, Bohemian. Okay. So what did happen then? When I was doing these translations, that I felt it's not going to work if I just look into the dictionary and compare and do equivalents from the dictionary. No. You have to see the imagery and feel the emotion, what is described in the jungle and the Curtis experiences And the jungle there in Africa, the novel is situated to Africa, no? So, and the dancing black woman and stuff like that and so on. And then if you see it, and if you internalize it, and if you command the other tongue well, into which you are translating, then you should start to describe it for yourself without writing. And then maybe recording. And then if it is you satisfied with that, if you feel that there's a resonance and vibration, it is correct, or it is fully painted in a depth, so then you can listen to it, say, I will use this formulation, because linear writing is always a difficulty if you are translating, because you looked into the dictionary and you look into grammar and syntax and so on. And Derrida and Foucault speculate about this, the philosophy at all has no value because it does not embrace the whole. It cannot even penetrate to the essences of phenomena, because it is reduced to syntax and grammar. And so they were speculating that one has to include madness and a mad vocalization or the mad speech into the realm of philosophy, because there may be an open road to, not to say the truth, but to actuality, to German word Wirklichkeit, to reality. Okay. So, what does it tell us? That, and Nietzsche also, there is this story, there is this end of his life. He went mad. This is not because he would be psychologically unstable. No. He had an organic disease, syphilis, that in the last stages expresses itself in the human body by degeneration of the brain cells. And so if the hardware degenerates, naturally the software will mirror this degeneration by decomposition of soul processes, and soul processes are the nourishment, the base of energy for the mental processes, and so the mental processes also decompose or deteriorate. That leads me to that secret idea, the beloved child of my philosophy, that I didn't want to share so much, but I will do it nevertheless, because the time is over for egoistic projects, that this energy for the mental acts of consciousness, for the linear beams of directed intentional energy, is taken from the soul, okay, but the ego point makes one change and this is the change of direction. Whereas if you perceive the phenomenally with an open soul field, the larger soul fields are, so to say, embalming, embracing, penetrating your soul field. The energy comes from outside to you, from the larger field to the smaller field, or you are drawn to it passively, so you come closer to that emanation of the lake, of the sea, of the sun, of that beautiful girl, and so, and as you are being drawn closer to it, your soul field starts to merge with it, and you are inspired, and you are falling in love, and you are falling in admiration. And if it is a mountain range or the night sky that is drawing you near, like it did draw Erich Zahn in the fantastic story of H.P. Lovecraft, the music of Eric Zahn. Eric Zahn was so much drawn to the starry depth of the universe while he was playing on his violin on the balcony on the top of the Gothic house that he simply disappeared even materially. Naturally, Lovecraft's imagination was Poe's imaginations doubled or tripled and bent to this horror style. So he supposed that those forces that are drawing the ecstatic soul of Eric Zahn to the depth of the cosmic stars is something, something which is named like a yogurt or something, and it is slimy, enormous, and terrible. Okay, so we find the last traces of H.P. Lovecraft in those space opera horrors like the Prometheus. No? Okay. We find those slimy monsters there again. This is H.P. Lovecraft again, digitalized and supported by artificial intelligence, maybe, or the digital artwork. So, what else? So, there is a change of energy flow. Whereas, as we have said, the embracement of the larger morphogenetic field of the planet, the landscape, the sea, the sky, or the animal, or the human animal, as you're approaching a beautiful human animal, is drawing you near and passively overpowering, to say, penetrating your soul field, which is smaller. Then what the ego does, it grabs this energy and mirrors it, bumps it off, sends it out, by collecting it, like, pressing it, condensing it into this beam. This is the effect of the willpower, because the willpower concentrates on one goal and one only. And we have a nice metaphor, a nice image in the German language when those training of shooting, if you are shooting, you are trying to hit a target which is black and white, and you are concentrating sharply, and the gun and the projection of the bullet is exactly a metaphor and an image for the willpower shot of directed consciousness. And what is important, that the black center of the target is called in the jargon of the firearms techniques in German die Zwecke. It is the sharp center, okay, black center which you are supposed to hit. And die Zwecke is a feminine noun, okay, the target center, but when it is changed into a masculine noun, der Zweck, it means the purpose, the goal, okay, of whatever we are doing. Zweck, los, is without a purpose, meaningless, okay. So you see, that is the proof in language that the willpower is taking part in this beam of consciousness. You cannot conceptually realize something without this shot of willpower. That's why Klages correctly states or formulates that the will to power is more suitable, the study of the will, of the human will, is more suitable to understanding the essence of the ego than the study of cognition in the sense of conceptual thinking, because ego itself cannot be studied. It is completely otherworldly, and even he means that it's not from this space and time, not from this cosmos, because it is caused by this entity X, that is, correctly to say, otherworldly, not from this cosmos, not from the space and time, and it hits the human soul, the individual human soul. It actuates this seed, this point, which we have to think about as a mathematical point, which actually does not have any essence. It starts to functionally change the soul field. That is a certain positive information for you, for all those metaphysicians, for all those who are obsessed and terrified, and all religious people and all mad people who hear voices and stuff like that. It is not possible for an life kind of threatening agency from some other space and time to enter this planet. It is not possible. It is not even possible to enter the human soul with some innate powers. The only process that is possible, the only effect is the transformation of the soul field into the individual human soul field. It is not possible with animals and with plants at all, only with human beings, and especially the late human beings. The Klages called them Heraclean, because Heracles is the man of the great deeds. Okay, so what has happened here? Okay, something has fallen down. Maybe my willpower is emanating, because I try now to concentrate sharply to tell you this great secret of mine and the great Nobel Prize quality phenomenological discovery. That, okay, as I've said, only a transformation of the human soul field is possible, not a penetration of the human soul field with some innate life-destroying power. So we are, the Germans would say, man ist immer selber schuld. We are always guilty in the sense that we always do it ourselves. We destroy ourselves. We destroy first, this is difficult to say. It is not to be confused with some Christian conception of sin. The conception of primordial sin may be a kind of an attempted formulation in literary and mythological terms of this intuition that the deepest church fathers, or in the Hebrew fathers, have had, that there is something wrong in the soul of man, because so many men turned to destruction, to life depreciating and destroying acts. And because they didn't have the insight into Husserl and Heidegger and Klages and Nietzsche, they had to use what they had, the myths, the fairy tales, the stories. And though they have found this conception of original sin, okay, which in a sense would be compatible as a fairy tale, as a myth, with our conception of time, because, as we say, the time is phenomenal time, is ever enlarging and growing space. We use the metaphor of a tree. Whatever you have experienced in your individual life is present in any present moment of your lifespan as a potentiality in a wide and growing and ever-growing and enlarging soul field, that you cannot get hold of it, that you cannot reach it, is obvious, because it cannot be reached by an act of willpower. It can only appear passively if you are given the present or the privilege or the kiss of mother, love, nature, Gaia, fire, whatever you call it, and you start to, your soul feet start to vibrate in such a way that it draws from its recesses, from its branches and leaves of this present moment, this huge tree of the ever-growing tree of your memories, let us say so. But they are living; they are not dynamic. And this tree is mostly silent because you, sitting down or in the center with your directed beams of willpower, are always hitting only this one or this one or this one, this branch, this leaf, and you keep even pictures of those frozen moments of your photo album, and you look at them and you desire to be there again. But exactly this act of looking with the willpower at this fixed picture of the past is preventing your soul from expanding in such a quality that it will so draw the, let us say, quote unquote, past vibrating memory field from a distant part of your tree to your present part of the tree. Okay, so this is it, man. So that's why even this refusal, my refusal of writing linearly so much as I did before, and trying to expand my soul field. I mean, stupid. Passively allow this soul field of this body to be penetrated and to be inspired by the distant branches and leaves of this individual soul field. And as Heidegger and others have mentioned, also from the over-personal, transpersonal, informational, morphogenetic fields of this locality in which I speak and visualize and feel and dream, are, even if in exceptional states of qualities of the soul field, when it enlarges so much or it becomes so intensely that from a very far away, distant images can be reborn again in me as alive. And this, for Heidegger, was also the case of the so-called deep thoughts, because he noticed, as everybody who is thinking, let us say, originally, that this is a great mystery. Until we name it, we cannot get hold of the thought. It is not something written, a sentence, and if you learn for an examination, you memorize some sentences, and you during the examination you visually imagine from out of your memory the page of the book, and you read it. This is not what we mean. This is a kind of exercise like dogs in the circus that can balance on their hind legs and throw balls or whatever. Everything is possible with the human capacity of cognition, that is memory, cognitive memory, well-powered memory, or well-powered imagination, well-powered let's say combination of images, and so there's endless. And majority of art unfortunately happens like this. That's why it is not living. It is a construction. Okay. So this is it. The last information is from this realm, is that this change of energy flow is so important that it is a Nobel Prize of value in psychology and literature and philosophy and physics at the same time. I mean, I can cope with that if I get 4 Nobel Prizes just to, to open this area, this Atlantis coast, so that there could be temples and there could be tennis courts and there could be beach ball courts and there could be, nice places on the shore and for poets and bards, and there could be rehabilitation and massage and physiotherapy and so wellness, kalogagatia again, plus Minoan mother love. Okay, because Minoan culture is much older than that of the nomadic tribes that have raised from the Asia deserts and steppes is what called prairies, so to say, to the Mediterranean, and that was a continuous multiple act of willpower, whereas here was vibrating passive mother love and unity, and you can see it in the dresses, in the frescoes, in the colors, in the faces, and the ceramics, everywhere. If you go to the Museum of Heraklion and you imagine that these artifacts are expressions of a certain specific soul condition, okay? And if you look at the palaces of Knossos and Phaistos, and you walk there and you imagine that this is living, okay? You call from the recesses of the genius loci, you call passively by you love it so much, you feel the smell of the fresh air. This is important on the islands. You have always fresh air. It is not like something in the north where you are living under a cloud and many weeks in the winter nothing moves. Terrible. So that's why Nietzsche was very, very correct in studying diet, climate as the most important prerequisites for this creative thinking. He came so far that he said that under the blue sky only, with the fresh wind in your shoulders and the sweet smell of the herbs, and pouring lights, like waterfalls of sunlight, only in such a climate, life-supporting philosophy can be born in your soul, because it is life-supporting. So that's why here, the renewal of Europe, European Union should stop all those crazy projects now, investing to digitalization. Digitalization is the last, and artificial intelligence and transhumanism and computerization of whatever, total control, is the last expression of the life diminishing ego power, okay, that is losing the openness of the soul field so that it receives nothing. And out of this emptiness of the soul, because all of the soul field has become outwardly projected stream of ego acts of intentional consciousness in perception in thinking and so on, that it is life does not taste anymore of life, and so the mistake then is logically made that something is wrong, and very much is wrong. But as Nietzsche has found out, a decadent individual or a decadent culture is very well aware of its decadence, but it will find methods, techniques, and models, okay, of a remedy that will unfortunately enhance the deterioration, because the brain is, the soul, okay, is decadent already. It is without life. It is only conscious, conceptual representation of life. And representation is never the thing represented. I mean, basic linguistics, dissocier, no? The sign and the signified. Okay, the sign is not the signified, okay? And this is the essence of representation. Representations mean to make something present again, which is not present now, okay? So the sign or the symbol or the drawing of an elephant makes the elephant present. If I watch the sign of the elephant or the drawing of the elephant, or if I watch the letters A, E, L, E, F, A, and T, elephant, makes in my soul the image of the elephant present again. That's representation. Representation is necessary for any civilization to start on any planet. Without representation, there will be no intelligence. But good servant and evil ruler, if the representation starts to rule and pushes out of the soul all phenomena that are real, perceived, traces of the living body of the Mother Earth. So your experience, phenomenal experience of the sea, sun, wind, and so if it is pushed out and you read about it in novels only, and there are words like the ship was sailing on the stormy sea and there was no sun, the dark clouds, and so. And if you see nothing, if you have stopped seeing the dynamic image of that ship and the dynamic motion of the clouds, if you don't see it, then something is wrong. Then you have started to push out the phenomena with the words that are actually serving as killers for the phenomena, and they represent only concepts, information. You can distinguish this sentence from another sentence, which is like the beautiful sun was kissing the golden waves of the sun as he was walking hand in hand with Michaela on the shore, and the foam was pletching on their knees and thighs, and they felt, I'm flowing away. That is it. You can distinguish the dark, sunless sea with storm from this beautiful golden sun image. But if you don't see the images and feel the emotions connected with it, and then you don't see the images in dynamic motion, and if it does not fascinate you, and if it does not take over your soul, like it did happen to me, that I started to be drawn into that image, which I actually have experienced in my some distant part of my tree of the present moment, of a phenomenal tree of memory. It started to grow, come to me closer and closer, and was pulling me into itself, and would suck me in and swallow me, and I would start to be a very postmodern, that suddenly this all philosophical and anthropological and phenomenological lecture would mutate into a kind of ecstatic description of a love story, okay? So, concentration again. We use concentration in the life-supporting way, that the very rich and propagating and growing and multiplying soul field imagery and emotion that is engulfing me, my body and my soul is, reduced, and in a way caressed and shaped and sculptured, plasticized into a more symmetrical form, because I want to pass the image on you, on the listener. So I cannot become purely ecstatic. This is what I would say Derrida and Foucault have not felt so deeply, because they felt there is either or. Either we are semantic and syntactic and logical and morphological and linguistically captured and no escape is possible, or there is this madness raving. I would say this is again a dichotomy. This is again the old sin, let us say, quote unquote, of epistemology, noetics, of the theory of what and how we can represent the external world in our soul, of European traditions since the Greeks, a dichotomy, either or. And Nietzsche with his theory of one source of life, and Klages with his theory one source of soul energy, and that's why they are both defendants of life, because we know that life is a bipolar unity of body and soul. If Nietzsche's defense of life comes more from the pole of the body, then Klages' defense of life comes more from the pole of the soul. But they are a bipolar dynamic unity together, like yin and yang sign of Taoism. So both of them are useful and life-supporting, and depends on the character of the defendant on which pole he will, plant his fortress, or from which pole he will start to expand and heal. Okay, Nietzsche naturally as human animal that was frequently ill will support the soul. The body, the health of the body, the great body. Okay, the body is the great spirit for him. There are these concepts, the große Gesundheit, the great health, prerequisite for the Superman, for the Overman. At the same time, the great noon, okay, midday, the fullest sun power, and the great health, okay, body in full potential. This is Zarathustra, okay. So, and Ludwig Klages on the soul field, a human animal that lived for a long time, that was very much wandering in beautiful landscapes under the wings of the cosmogonic Eros, who, difference to Nietzsche, had a lot of nausicaas, and those from Nietzsche dreamed of beautiful Suleikas and those girls with an evil look. He had met many moments of erotic merging, or the erotic unity with their souls, because Klages understands very deeply that Eros and Kairos are deeply connected, and the deepest erotic relationship can be very, and very chance, just looking into somebody's eyes, and seeing a girl sitting in the warm summer night on the steps on the terrace over the lake now, and she's embracing the white knees as you pass her, and then she lifts her beautiful face and looks into your eyes, and you look down to her, and you feel this is it, and this would be enough to live and love. Okay, this would be enough from this moment. If you could, build the erotic temple of your souls, of your two souls and your two bodies, and just keep it growing and growing without destroying it by willpower shots of, objectifying this girl to a certain name and a certain position and a certain profession and certain locality, and trying to either possess her so that she has to change that everything what has made her so what her tree of life would have to be uprooted. This is Goethe again, who is talking about that. Es führt mir im Walde, ich ging im Walde, so viel mich nicht zu suchen, das war mein Sinn. I walked in the forest as pulled me into the forest, and I didn't intend or nothing to do. This was my calling. This is an exact description of the cosmogonic Eros. And there he finds a flower, a beautiful flower, and then he rips it off, and then he brings it home, and then he is well aware that this something is wrong. He took it from the arms of Mother Nature, and so he says, now it blooms, it flowers, and so, and nevertheless, still in my home. This is the dilemma of a romantic and a classicist man at the end of age of reason, and starting to be a romantic. How can I deal with these deep moments of inspiration of cosmogonic Eros when my soul field passively merges with this beautiful soul field of this girl at this moment, and I feel this would be enough to live and love, as I have once written a poem, because I experienced this, and I again am getting drawn into this moment. It is overpowering me because it is present on some distant branch of my life tree, of my phenomenal memory tree, of my great presence is opening. Okay? So, and then if you become rational and pragmatic, and even if you know a lot about the danger of possessing somebody and making the girl to your girlfriend, which you can call using numbers and which you can localize by using GPS, then immediately the cognitive power, this entity that is basically and essentially and innately life diminishing, starts to influence it. So there is no remedy. We are far away, gone. The only solution, the only attempt in changing this, in bringing the lifestyle of human beings more to the pole of life and cosmogonic Eros, and passively allowing the Mother Nature to inspire us, is to give up all that shit of pragmatic success. And those of you who have still, a living power in your soul will be crushed by it, will lose it all, and you should not be afraid, and you should not be sorry, and you should even not, in any case, you should not make an end out of it, because your ego would suggest to you that now you have nothing left. All money, all positions, all family, all friends, all status quo, all cars, all property. and all life projects gone, a total burnout. What is the total burnout? The total burnout is when the soul is so fully scorched by the flamethrowers of the ego that really that's the end. Total burnout. And what do we do with the patients in psychosomatic clinics where I have been working for years in all kinds of these clinics? You are not talking with a theoretician of physiology like Nietzsche was, and his praxis in physiology was his own suffering or his own lust of recovery. I am duly the heir of Nietzschean practical philosophy because I have been working for 30 years as a physiotherapist in whatever you name it. Madhouses, private clinics, orthopedy, psychosomatic, heart and cancer clinics, and professional sports centers, Olympic sports centers, and farms, and whatever you name it. Okay, skiing resorts and tennis, golf resorts, and so on. So I know the suffering and the recovery of the human body from thousands of sympathetically, kind of melted with experiences, because my approach was always to melt, because I could allow it by being extremely healthy and sportive. I could melt with the software and with the body of the patient, and then feel from inside what is the trouble if you are, standing like that, okay, moving like that, bending your shoulder and elbow like that. What is it from inside? And so I could suggest good remedies, okay, and practical exercises. So this is the only solution is to have something like that open for those of you who are crushed by the pragmatic, analytical, logical competition-like lifestyle. This is inevitable. You will not be pure of soul and pure of heart and pure of body unless you go through the fire of your soul. And the fire of your soul is the flamethrower of your ego that has scorched your landscape of your soul completely, that only underground there are still some seeds. There are still some seeds of hope, of life, of beauty, of eroticism, of passion, of beauty and friendship and ecstasy and sport and good food and tomatoes and bananas and blah, 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 and warm beaches and foam of fresh water on your chest. It's still there. But it has to be watered. It has to be watered by wisdom first, by the wisdom of biocentric phenomenology and of Nietzsche's body program, can fall on the fertile ground only if it is really open, and you are open. If you listen to this so far, you are open, because these dewdrops of life are falling on the deserted, scorched fields of your soul, and they are sucked in, and they are sucked in, and they immediately, an image is born, a little bit of an image is born from your past, and a little bit of emotion is starting to wave through your soul, okay, and this is your home, this is your fortress, a living rainbow fortress, this is your goddess, this is your mother, this is your beloved, this is your daughter, and this is all what is calling you here to the shores of Crete, because here in the Asian Atlantis, on Minoan Crete, women were priestesses, and the Great Mother was the goddess, and the Great Mother took the shape of the local fairies of water, of a fairy of this bay, of this river, of this mountain top, of this holy grove, of this water source, and so on. And it appeared to devoted men, respectively, in a female energy form. If you are young, it would appear to you as a loving mother. If you are a youngster, as a beautiful Artemis-like, Amazon-like, goddess-like, a young female full of erotic and adventure. If you are a grown-up man, it will appear to you like Aphrodite, a sexually desiring, beautiful, mature woman. If you are a slightly older, responsible man, it will appear to you as Hera, the goddess of your mother house, where you can settle down and raise new generations. And if you are an older gentleman, wisely pondering the beautiful rainbow of his life, it will appear to you as a young daughter and will laugh and dance with you and will rejuvenate you, okay? And if you are doubting, skeptical, or whatever, it can appear to you as an old wise woman from the forests and say, beware, beware, you are walking a dangerous path, and at the end of this path there is an old man with no hope and with bones that are arthrotic bones. Okay, so well then, we have had this great visual flow. Let's make a break.
They told me that the world was complicated, no answers to the questions in my head. Well, I said no more uneasy conversations. I don't wanna be the prize that you found. Just let me be myself and keep my feet on the ground. There's a golden light shining down on me on an open road somewhere. There's an angel guide showing me the way, helping me survive. The ever-changing words that we are given, I'll sit somewhere between the truth and a lie. But truth will lead us to that sacred rainbow. A shift of mind is all that you are. A different way of seeing, way beyond the stars. There's a golden light shining down on me on an open road somewhere. There's an angel guide showing me the way, helping me survive.
And the message of the Red Dawn of Zarathustra is this, the whole message. But basically, Here it would be possible. There are some other places I know, like the Lake of Constance. But there you have this full thrust of economic and pragmatic and technological success all around you. Other places must be looked for that are like this: the south shore of Crete to the east and west from Carl Limenes, the Asian Matala, the hippie center is here. So the old hippies, they were searching for that. But it was the young days of enlightenment, of the erotic enlightenment, the young days of erotic enlightenment were the hippies in the 60s. And as everything happens for the first time, there are mistakes. They went on frequently on private egoistic trips. Nah? They didn't understand the noetic difference between consciousness and soul field. That's why there was so much dreaming about enlargement of consciousness. Now, that actually means scorching the soul field to death if it is done with the kind of beam-like cognitive act. Now, what was correct was dissolving the ego with psychotropic plants, which is also the tradition of the Minoan Kikon. We know that the Aloysius mystery is a kind of heritage of Minoan Crete, and then in some instances, Kikon was used, which is a cup to be drunk during the ceremony, and they added some psychotropic plants into it. So the psychotropic plants, what does a psychotropic plant achieve? Through the body, through the fact that the molecules of this substance, okay, which is the essence of the psychotropic plant, fits well to the receptors of neurons in the human brain perfectly, sometimes even more perfectly than the bodies, the micro bodies like adrenaline and this life enhancing metabolic drugs, no? Serotonin and so on. This is strange, no? That led some biological mystics to the supposition that the plants, like Terence McKenna, that the plants are the gods, or that they are aliens, that they have come in spores, the mushrooms especially. They came in spores through space. They settled down on this fertile planet, and then they have started to change the planet by, presenting themselves to be eaten by the primitive man, and then enlarging his soul field, not his consciousness, enlarging his soul field so much that he would be inspired. Okay, so this is what the psychotropic plants do. They enlarge the soul field, and they mute or repress the ego functions. Okay, that's enough. Maybe what is depends on your character, on your quality of the body, of the soul. For somebody, it is more important to suppress the ego functions, and then immediately his own heritage and his own various abilities will expand, so that he will dance and smile and sing and enjoy. And this can be done without drugs. It can be done with sport and music and with dance and so art. Okay, somebody who is more of a rational guy, he would need more expansion to the soul field, so more stuff. Let us put more stuff in, be it an alcohol or be it a psychotropic drug or whatever. So now, this is the Kikon story, which can be, must not be applied. No? What is more important is a life-supporting surrounding, which enhances passive observation of nature. There is no economic stress, no competition. Even sports that will be performed here will be performed more under the wings of cosmogonic Eros. That is, beauty and coordination, harmony will be more valued than the power of suppressing the enemy. Your own elegance, your own harmony, your own experience of beauty and harmony inside your body and soul will be more valued than the fact that you have suppressed the enemy, like you crushed him on the field and you have played the balls exactly there where he is not, which is willpower act. I mean, in the future, completely new Minoan games can be envisioned in which these Olympic Games merge with the Minoan Games, because the Olympic Games are naturally much younger than the older Minoan Games, because the Hellas and the later Greece is at least 2,000 years younger than the Minoan culture, okay. So that the Minoan Games will be like that, The aesthetic function, the aesthetic value of sport will be more important than the pragmatic value. So you need something like that, and you need a limited amount of technology, a reduced amount of technology, which is granted due to the landscape. The landscape has to be not accessible easily. There have to be a lot of rocks, valleys, gorges, mountains, so that nobody comes upon the idea to build a motorway here or some a big factory or airport or something like that, or supermarket. There have to be a few people only, and traditionally has to be a peaceful landscape with small farmers or nobody. Small farmers or nobody. That's the solution. Small traditional family farmers that will never sell the land. This is important. Never sell the land. And we living with love and respect with these farmers, showing devotion to them, helping them, offering them all kinds of services, because they are the mother people here. They are the mother people here. Okay, so this is it. So I finished this. I hope you have understood most of it. And if there are questions, I'm ready to receive questions. Hul bhuva svaha tat savitu vareyam vargo devasya dhimahi yo yo naha prachodayat.